I've been broke 3 times in my life. Not just low on cash broke. I mean standing on the edge of oblivion, watching everything I built crumble to dust broke. And each time, I clawed my way back from nothing to millions. You want to know the difference between the traders who survive and the ones who disappear? It's not intelligence. It's not even luck. It's something far more brutal, far more unforgiving. And today, I'm going to share with you 5 hard truths that modern hedge fund traders pay millions to learn. Truths that cost me everything before I finally understood them. They called me the boy plunger when I was 15 years old, making thousands while grown men lost their shirts. By 21, I had my first million. By 25, I'd lost it all. Made it back, lost it again. And somewhere in that cycle of euphoria and devastation, between the penthouse suites and the park benches, I discovered something that separates the legends from the corpses in this business. The market doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your brilliant analysis or your desperate need to be right. The market is a mirror, and what stares back at you is the cold, unvarnished truth about who you really are when everything is on the line. I've sat across from some of the sharpest minds in modern finance, men and women who move billions with a keystroke, who can make or break companies before breakfast. And you know what they all have in common? They've learned the same brutal lessons I learned when I was trading stocks in bucket shops, when I was reading the tape like it was poetry, when I was betting everything on patterns that most men couldn't see if you drew them a diagram. These aren't the lessons they teach you in business school. These aren't the motivational slogans you'll find on some guru's Instagram feed. These are the truths that separate the professionals from the corpses, the survivors from the statistics. The first hard truth, and this one cuts deep because everyone wants to believe they're special, is that intelligence means nothing without discipline. I've watched PhD mathematicians blow up their accounts. I've seen Harvard graduates panic sell at the bottom. I've witnessed the most brilliant analytical minds freeze like deer in headlights when real money was on the line. You see, the market doesn't grade on a curve. It doesn't give extra credit for having a high IQ or knowing Greek letters. The market only cares about one thing. Can you follow your rules when every fiber of your being is screaming at you to break them? I learned this the hard way. And by hard way, I mean I lost millions learning it. There was a time when I thought I was smarter than the market. I developed a system, see? A way of reading the tape that worked like clockwork. Made a fortune with it. Then one day, I thought I saw something different. A special situation. I convinced myself that this time was different, that my rules didn't apply here because I understood something others didn't. I was wrong. The market took my money and taught me a lesson worth more than any university could charge. Your system is only as good as your ability to stick to it when it's most uncomfortable to do so. The hedge fund managers I know, the ones who've survived multiple market cycles and come out wealthy on the other side, they all have systems. Complex algorithms, sophisticated risk models, teams of analysts. But you know what makes them successful? It's not the fancy systems. It's that they treat those systems like religious commandments. When the system says sell, they sell. When it says stay out, they stay out. Even when, especially when, their gut is telling them something different. Because here's what I learned. Your gut is usually just fear and greed dressed up as intuition. The second hard truth is even harder to swallow. The market owes you nothing, and expecting fairness will destroy you faster than any bad trade. I remember when I was young, really young, before the bucket shops and the big scores, I thought the market was supposed to make sense. I thought if you studied hard enough, if you understood a company well enough, if you made the right analysis, the market would reward you. What a foolish kid I was. The market doesn't care about your analysis. It doesn't care that you spent 60 hours researching a company. It doesn't care that you're right about the fundamentals. The market is a voting machine in the short term and a weighing machine in the long term. But in between those two states, it's a torture device designed to shake out everyone who thinks they deserve to win. I've seen this destroy more traders than any other misconception. They buy a stock because their analysis is solid, their research is thorough, their logic is bulletproof. Then the stock goes down, and down, and down. And instead of accepting that the market doesn't care about their analysis, They double down. They average down. They throw good money after bad because they can't accept that the market isn't required to agree with them. I did this multiple times, lost fortunes doing it. The hedge fund traders who survive long enough to become legends, they learn early that being right and making money are two completely different things. They learn to ask not, am I right? But what is the market telling me? And when the market says they're wrong, they don't argue. They listen. This is where most people fail. They bring their ego to a gunfight. They need to be right more than they need to be profitable. They'd rather lose money and maintain their intellectual superiority than admit the market knows something they don't. I've been there. I've felt that burn of righteous indignation when the market refused to acknowledge my brilliant analysis. And every single time I held on to that feeling, every time I prioritized being right over being responsive to price action, I paid for it. The market is the ultimate teacher, and tuition is expensive. The third hard truth, and this is where it gets psychological, is that your biggest enemy isn't other traders. It isn't the market makers. It isn't the institutions with their high-frequency algorithms. Your biggest enemy is sitting in your chair. It's you. More specifically, it's the part of you that thinks you're different, that thinks you can handle more risk than you can, that thinks you can hold through pain that would make other traders fold. Every trader I've known who blew up, including myself on those dark days, did so because they ignored their own limitations. They over-leveraged. They over-concentrated. They stayed in trades longer than their risk tolerance allowed because they couldn't admit they were wrong or couldn't accept a loss. The modern hedge fund world is littered with genius traders who forgot this truth. Long-term capital management, run by Nobel Prize winners and the best minds in finance, nearly brought down the global financial system because brilliant men thought they were too smart to fail. They forgot that leverage amplifies everything, including your mistakes. They forgot that markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. They forgot that confidence without humility is just arrogance waiting to be punished. I learned about my own limitations the expensive way, through repeated devastation. There was a stretch where I was convinced I had figured it all out, that I had reached a level of mastery where the normal rules didn't apply to me anymore. I was Jesse Livermore. I could read the tape like Mozart read music. I had made millions, lost millions, made them back again. I was invincible. Then the market showed me exactly how vincible I was. It wasn't even a complicated setup. I just held on to positions too long, convinced that my reading was correct and the market would eventually come around. I was right about the ultimate direction. I was just wrong about the timing and the path. And in trading, being right eventually means nothing if you're dead broke before eventually arrives. The hedge fund managers I respect most are the ones who've learned to build systems around their weaknesses, not just their strengths. They know they're emotional creatures. They know they're susceptible to fear and greed, so they create rules that protect them from themselves, position size limits so they can't overconcentrate when they feel extremely confident, stop losses that execute automatically so they can't talk themselves into holding losers, mandatory breaks after big wins or big losses so they can reset emotionally. These aren't signs of weakness. These are signs of wisdom purchased through pain. Think about what I'm telling you here. The market is a psychological battlefield, and the war is with yourself. Every trade is a test of your discipline, your emotional control, your ability to stick to a plan when your instincts are screaming at you to abandon it. Most people lose this war before they even understand they're fighting it. They think trading is about finding the right stocks, the right entry points, the right technical patterns. Those things matter, sure, but they're meaningless if you can't control the person executing the trades. You can have the best system in the world, but if you can't follow it, if you can't resist the urge to override it when you're feeling confident or scared, you're going to lose. Not might lose. Will lose. It's just a matter of time. The fourth hard truth is about time, actually. Time in the market beats timing the market, but only if you can survive long enough to let time work. This sounds simple, almost trite, but it's one of the most profound lessons in all of trading. The hedge fund traders who build generational wealth aren't the ones making spectacular short-term plays. They're the ones who survive long enough to compound their returns. They're the ones who never blow up completely because they never risk so much that one bad trade, one bad month, one bad year can wipe them out. I learned this through bitter experience. There were times when I was absolutely right about the market direction, right about specific stocks, right about timing. But I was positioned so aggressively that normal market volatility shook me out before my thesis could play out. I'd be forced to sell at losses not because I was wrong, but because I was over-leveraged and couldn't handle the drawdown. Then I'd watch those same positions move exactly where I thought they would, making fortunes for traders who had sized their positions appropriately and had the staying power to endure the volatility. The mathematics of trading losses is brutal, and most traders don't understand it until it's too late. If you lose 50% of your capital, you need to make 100% just to get back to even. Think about that. A 50% loss requires a 100% gain to recover. This asymmetry means that protecting your capital isn't just important, it's the single most important thing you can do as a trader. The hedge fund managers who last aren't trying to hit home runs every time. They're playing a game of survival first, profits second. They know that if they can just avoid the catastrophic losses, if they can just keep their capital intact, opportunities will come. The market rewards patience and punishes aggression. But here's the twist that makes this truth particularly hard to accept. Being conservative doesn't feel good. It doesn't give you the rush. It doesn't make for exciting stories. When your friends are talking about their 10-bagger that doubled in a week, and you're talking about your diversified portfolio that made 8% for the year, you feel like you're missing out. You feel like a coward. Every successful trader I know has felt this way. The difference between winners and losers is that winners feel that way and stick to their risk management anyway. Losers feel that way and abandon their discipline to chase returns, and that's when they die. I've died that death multiple times in my career. I've had periods where I was so wealthy I could have retired and lived like a king for the rest of my life. Instead, I chased more. I took bigger risks. I convinced myself that I needed to make more, that I deserved to make more, that I was capable of making more, and the market took it all away. Not because I was a bad trader, because I was a bad risk manager, because I prioritized excitement over survival, because I forgot that in trading, like in war, the goal isn't to die for your thesis, it's to make the other guy die for his while you live to trade another day. The fifth and final hard truth is the one that took me longest to learn, and it's the one that separates the good traders from the great ones. The market is always teaching, but only the humble are learning. Every trade, win or lose, contains lessons. Every market cycle reveals something about how money flows, how psychology works, how prices move. But most traders are terrible students because they only learn from their wins, and even then, they usually learn the wrong lesson. They make money on a trade and think it's because they're smart, because their analysis was good, because they have some special skill. They lose money on a trade and blame external factors, bad luck, market manipulation, anything except their own decisions. The hedge fund traders I've learned the most from are the ones who do the opposite. When they win, they ask themselves, was this skill or luck? Did I follow my process or did I get lucky despite breaking my rules? Could I repeat this result or was this a one-time situation? When they lose, they take full responsibility. They don't blame the market, the Fed, insider traders, or high-frequency algorithms. They ask, what did I miss? Where was my analysis flawed? What can I learn from this loss? This mindset, this radical ownership of both wins and losses, this commitment to learning from every single trade, is what builds expertise over time. I can tell you from decades of experience, from millions made and lost and made again, that the market will teach you everything you need to know if you're willing to pay attention and humble enough to learn. But most people aren't. Most people repeat the same mistakes over and over, wondering why they get the same results. They chase hot stocks without a system. They risk too much because they're afraid of missing out. They hold losers and sell winners because they'd rather be right than profitable. They blame everyone except themselves when things go wrong. And they wonder why, after years of trading, they're no further ahead than when they started. Here's what I want you to understand, and I mean really understand. Not just nod along, but take it into your bones. Trading is simple but not easy. The principles I've shared with you, these 5 hard truths, they're not complicated. Discipline over intelligence. The market owes you nothing. Your biggest enemy is yourself. Survival beats heroics. Stay humble and keep learning. You could write these on a note card. A child could understand them. But living them, following them when real money is on the line, that's where 95% of traders fail. I failed too, over and over. Made and lost several fortunes because I knew these truths intellectually but couldn't embody them emotionally. I'd have a great run, get confident, start breaking my rules, and boom, the market would humble me again. This happened multiple times in my career. I'm not telling you this from a place of superiority. I'm telling you this from a place of hard-won experience, from scar tissue earned in the trenches, from lessons paid for with real money and real pain. The modern hedge fund world has all the technology I could have only dreamed of in my time. They have computers that can process millions of data points per second. They have algorithms that can execute trades faster than human thought. They have risk management systems that would make my old ticker tape look like a toy. But you know what? They're learning the same lessons I learned. They're fighting the same psychological battles. They're making the same mistakes, just with bigger numbers. Because while technology changes, human nature doesn't. Fear and greed, the 2 forces that drive all market movements, they're the same today as they were 100 years ago. And traders today are just as susceptible to them as I was. So what do you do with this information? How do you take these 5 hard truths and actually apply them to your trading? First, you get honest with yourself, brutally honest. Look at your trading history and ask yourself, am I following a system or am I gambling? Am I managing risk or am I hoping? Am I learning from my losses or am I making excuses? Am I trading my personality or my plan? These questions are uncomfortable. You might not like the answers. But discomfort is the price of growth. And if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you're not willing to succeed in this business. Second, you build a system and you follow it religiously. I don't care what kind of system it is. Technical analysis, fundamental analysis, quantitative models, whatever works for your personality and time frame. But it has to have clear rules for entry, for exit, for position sizing, for risk management. And once you have that system, you follow it even when, especially when, you don't want to. You follow it when you're on a winning streak and feeling invincible. You follow it when you're on a losing streak and feeling desperate. You follow it when everyone around you is making money doing something different. You follow it because the system is more intelligent than you are in the moment. The system represents your best thinking when you weren't under emotional pressure. Trust it. Third, you treat every dollar you risk like it's the last dollar you'll ever have. Because here's the truth. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. Every dollar you lose in the market is a dollar you earned through your time, your labor, your life energy. Respect that. Don't throw it away chasing thrills or trying to prove something to yourself or others. The market doesn't care about your ego. It will take everything you give it and ask for more. So be stingy with your risk. Be paranoid about preservation. Be boring if you have to be. Because boring traders with consistent risk management retire wealthy. Exciting traders with loose risk management blow up and disappear. Fourth, you accept that losses are part of the game. Not possible losses, not occasional losses, inevitable losses. You're going to lose money. The question isn't if, it's when and how much. The best traders in the world lose money regularly. The difference is they lose small amounts according to plan, while amateur traders lose large amounts by accident. When you take a loss, and you will, don't let it destroy your confidence. Don't let it make you afraid to take the next good trade. Don't let it turn into revenge trading where you try to make it back immediately. Take the loss, learn from it, and move on. The market is infinite. There will always be another opportunity, but only if you have capital left to trade with. Finally, and this might be the most important point, you commit to being a student of the market for the rest of your trading career. You never stop learning. You never think you've figured it all out. You stay curious, stay humble, stay hungry for knowledge, read everything, study the masters, the ones who succeeded and the ones who failed, understand market history, learn about psychology and behavioral finance, study your own trades like a scientist studies data, keep a journal, track your mistakes, measure your progress not just in dollars but in adherence to your process. Because the moment you think you've mastered the market is the moment the market is preparing to teach you a very expensive lesson. These 5 hard truths: discipline over intelligence, the market's indifference, self-sabotage, survival over heroics, and perpetual learning, they're not just trading principles. They're life principles. They apply to business, to relationships, to any competitive endeavor where your decisions determine your outcomes. I learned them through trading because that's where I spent my life, but the lessons are universal. The question is, will you learn them the easy way or the hard way? Will you take what I'm sharing with you here and apply it, or will you have to lose your own fortunes before you believe it? I'm Jesse Livermore, and I've been on both sides of this equation. I've been the cocky kid who thought he was invincible, and I've been the broken man who lost everything because he forgot these fundamental truths. I've made millions and I've lost millions. I've been celebrated and I've been destroyed. And through it all, the market kept teaching me the same lessons until I finally learned them well enough to stay on top. You don't have to take the same painful path I did. You can learn from my mistakes, from the mistakes of the hedge fund traders who've come after me, from everyone who's ever played this game and lived to tell about it. The market is the greatest teacher in the world, but it's also the most expensive school. The tuition is your capital, and the lessons are taught through pain. But if you can survive the education, if you can learn these 5 hard truths and live them every single day you trade, you have a chance. Not a guarantee, never a guarantee, but a real fighting chance to succeed in this business where most fail. So here's my challenge to you. Take these truths and test them. Apply them to your trading. Be disciplined when you want to be impulsive. Accept what the market gives you rather than demanding what you think you deserve. Build systems that protect you from yourself. Prioritize survival over spectacular gains. And never ever stop learning. Do these things consistently, not perfectly but consistently, and you'll join the small percentage of traders who actually make it in this business. And when you do, when you're standing on the other side having survived and prospered, you'll look back and realize that these weren't just trading lessons. They were lessons about discipline, humility, self-awareness, patience, and growth. They were lessons that made you not just a better trader, but a better thinker, a better decision maker, a better version of yourself. That's the real prize in all of this. The money is great, don't get me wrong, but the person you become in the process of earning it, that's what lasts. The market is waiting. It doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't care if you've learned these lessons or not. It will take your money, either way. But now you know what it took me decades to learn. Now you have the map that I wish someone had given me when I was starting out. What you do with it is up to you. Will you respect these truths, or will you learn them the hard way like I did? The choice is yours, and you'll make it with every trade you take from this moment forward. Now drop a comment below and tell me which of these 5 truths hit you the hardest. Which one do you struggle with most in your own trading? And if you found value in this, make sure you check out our other videos on the channel where we dive deep into the strategies and psychology that separate winning traders from the rest. The education continues, but only if you're willing to keep learning. See you in the next one.